Welcome to my Silence of the Lambs style basement. I'm going to try to turn this Heineken draft keg, it's empty, into a little wood burning stove with a chimney and everything. Got the idea for this project on a, well, I was drinking the beer and then I thought, hey, this would make a neat little wood burning stove if I could figure out how to do it. So looked around and I found a YouTube page called Haney's Place, H-A-N-E-Y-S-P-L-A-C-E, and he had several of these that were made up and looked kind of neat. Mine won't be anything near as fancy, but I'm going to give it a shot. I'm not sure if this is going to work or not, but I'll put it up anyway so you can see some epic failure if it doesn't work. So I'm going to have it oriented like this, so I have a little cooking surface up here. And the first thing I need to do is cut a door in here so that I can feed kindling in. And I don't know if you can see it, but there's like a bump here and a bump here. So what I want to do is I want to come in about a 1/4 inch or maybe a little more from each of those bumps, so that when I put a little piece of steel over for the door and bend it to shape, there'll be some overlap there. So I need to figure out how to do that and mark it out. So I've kind of marked out a door. I decided to go with 3/8 inches from the little swell there, just to give me a little bit of more wiggle room, and I made a door. Oh, I can't tell exactly how wide it is, but something aesthetically pleasing. So I need to cut that out, and I think the way I'm going to try to do it is I've got a Dremel tool with a little wheel on it. I'm going to try that. We'll see. Sometimes these things don't necessarily go as planned, so I'll give it a shot. Well, I got it cut out more or less without incidents. There's some like tubing and guts and stuff in here. I'm going to have to figure out how to get all that out of there. Need to wash this out, and I'm going to clean up these edges with a file because they are pretty sharp. I'm going to save this because I might use this stuff to make little vents or something later, so I'll hold on to that. I got the hole cut out, I got it filed off a little bit. It still cut me a little bit. But I did end up widening it so that it was on the diagonal a little bit over 6 inches. Wonder why I did that. Well, there's a little cast iron drain cover. It's a replacement strainer. I bought this at Menards. And that will serve as our thing for the fire, our little grate for the fire, and then it'll give us some space on the bottom so that air can get underneath the fire. Now for legs for this, I think what I'm going to try to do is put some of these angle irons on, just kind of around the top. I had 3 of them, but apparently I dropped one on the way from the store or something, so I'll have to go back. I'm going to put 3 of these angle irons and hopefully be able to stand it on there. So I've got to drill holes, and then I'm going to bolt those in. I've got some number 10 stove bolts. Imagine that, stove bolt. Now I'm going to try to design a little door for this. My idea was to have it, if you see there's a bump here, and then I left a little material here. My idea was to have it fit in this little space and be able to open and close it, etc. And I got a piece of steel. It's 26 gauge steel from Steelworks, and I bought this at Menards. This is a 12 by 24 piece. So what I need to do is measure this at least height-wise, and then I'm just gonna get the right height and cut off a piece that's bigger, and then I'm gonna have to bend it and then kind of trim it to size.
I'm terrible at math, otherwise I could figure out the circumference of this and figure out a way to compute how wide of a door I need, but I don't want to mess with that. So I'll get started on that and cut this out, and somehow I have to figure out how to bend that to fit to that roof. After measuring this hole, it's a good 4 3/4 inches, I think, is what I'm going to need. And then I just to estimate, so I don't get some crazy length, I just want like this. And I think 6 inches will get us there. Without further ado, if you haven't noticed, I'm not exactly like some whiz, so I don't do a lot of this stuff. So hopefully I don't screw this up or something. Okay, I'm going to just take my file and go over this real quick just to get some of this extra crap off of there so I don't get snagged on it or something. The hard part is going to be figuring out how to bend this the right way. Okay, so this is actually fairly easy to bend. I'm just kind of making little minor changes here, and then when it just test it and put it up here, it needs to come in a little bit more. It's a lot easier to bend than I thought it would be. I guess it's not hardened steel, so it's pretty thin. It's only 26 gauge. It's a little bit too much. A little bit. Darn near perfect. So now I've got some little hinges that I'm going to use to make the hinge for the door, and then I've got a little lock thing that I'll show you. I'll rig up to so that I can close it. I'm just going to drill the hole, so I'm not going to assemble it right now. One other thing that I've decided is that if I'm going to be swinging a hinge on here, blah blah blah, I'm going to reinforce this inside with another little piece of steel, just so that there's a little bit more strength when I'm bolting into it. I'm just going to cut that reinforcing piece off of here. It might be a little too long, but I can always trim it up. And then I'm gonna put this on the inside so that it doesn't create a gap between the door and the rest of the deal here. So I'm going to space out my hinges where I want them, drill the holes here, and use that as a guide to drill through there and as a guide to drill through there. Now I need to kind of guesstimate where I'm going to want the hinges to be with the door on the deal, and then mark them. There's a little thickness discrepancy there. I don't think it's going to close perfect. Maybe I'll put this on the outside. Yeah, that's the way to do it. Put this on the outside so that it's of the same thickness. I was thinking of putting it on the inside, but I've changed my mind now. So what I'm going to do is get this lined up to approximately where it needs to be. Maybe what I'll do is I'll drill this first set so that we've got this more or less in position, and then I'll assemble that portion of it so that my next set of holes is a little bit more precise, because if I hold this, I'm just never going to be able to hold it like perfect for that, so I'll do that first. Something I hadn't thought about is when I have this all bolted down into place, where are the screws going to go that are fastening the hinge to the door? So what I'm going to have to do is, once I get this assembled, drill some more holes, probably ovals, in this, or cut them out of the door so that the screws that are holding the hinge to the door have a place to slide in and out of. So I'll have to do that as well. I'm going to finish that door assembly in a little bit. What I'm going to do in the meantime is I need to attach my stovepipe to the back here. And what I've come up with for a stovepipe, I was originally thinking of using copper, but the guy at the hardware store, and I thought better of it, thought that using copper might might not be suitable temperature-wise. So I found some cast iron stuff. And basically, what you need is a plate to sit it on there. Then you need an angle like this to screw in. So I've got a 90-degree angle and I've got a plate, and what we'll do then is put this off the back. Now this might be way too heavy looking at it. I'll probably have to cut this pipe down just to save on a little weight. But the other thing I'm going to need to do, looking at this, is reinforce this back with some steel. And then the other thing I thought of is to kind of seal some of the space around there, because it's not completely level. Is I'm gonna use some of this replacement gasketing for wood stoves. It's got like fiberglass wick and some sealant, so I'm gonna have to build up some of that back there to help seal it up a little bit better. So I've decided for the reinforcing plate in the back, I'm gonna try to make it, kind of span this from ridge to ridge, just so that we've got a nice broad wide piece of steel sitting there, and I'll bend it to shape a little bit. And it needs to be a little bit wider than this. So I'm going to take some measurements and see what I can come up with. I've got my piece of steel cut so that it fits between those two ridges and will be supported by those two ridges. I'm going to put screws at all four corners of that, or bolts actually, to bolt it in place. And I'll drill those holes in this first and then use those to mark the can. But the other thing I need to do is I need to have holes for the smoke to come out. And then I need to have holes where the faceplate here attaches to the steel. So, and I will also drill those holes all the way through so that it actually bolts to the steel of this and the steel of this. So I'm going to just mark where everybody's hole is. Now this hole, I'm not quite sure how to get it in there. I'm probably just going to use a drill bit and then cut around it with my Dremel tool. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just needs to let smoke out and be the same roughly diameter as this. And I'll drill those out. So I got it basically mounted on there, and it is bomb-proof, adding that steel in there. You see I put 4 bolts at the corners, and then these are actually 1/4 inch by 3/4 inch hex bolts. And when I put this all together, I'm going to put locking nut locking washers on the inside here, so that this this stays put. Now, one thing to notice is that there's some space, and that's what I'm going to fill up with that gasket sealer, because the faceplate is flat and this is a curved surface. Now comes the hard part, and that's going to be getting this hole put in the way it's supposed to be through this can. And I'm going to let you watch the flailing there, just so you know that this isn't all like love and bunny rabbits. I've got my biggest metal drill bit, and I'm just going to start by drilling right through the center of that. Or maybe I'll drill out 4 holes and then try to connect the dots with my Dremel, or maybe some tin snips or something. We'll see here. Again, I don't do this for a living, so this is going to look awful.
I'll dine at the old cafe where we had so much fun, and order cocktails for 2 instead of the usual 1.
So I've got 4 little holes drilled. I'm just going to connect the dots with the Dremel, see how that works.
While reminiscing, I'll be kissing you.
Alright, I'm all the way through. It ain't pretty, but I think it's going to work. Now, as I mentioned, I'm going to use this replacement gasketing. It's meant for wood stoves, and I'm going to use this replacement gasketing to go ahead and kind of seal this off a little bit. I'm going to put some of it around there, just so that there's no space around that hole. And then I'm going to pack it in around the edges after I get this more or less bolted in. So we'll get started with that. Oh, I got this bolted on, and it ain't going nowhere. It is solid, and it's not deforming the can at all, and I'm really glad that I reinforced this with this steel. So the only thing left for the stove assembly is to kind of pack in some gasketing material on either side and seal it in place. I'm going to go ahead and do that. The drying time for this particular sealant is 2 hours, so I need to run to the store and get some more screws that are smaller for my hinges. When this is assembled, the one thing I'm worried about is that with that pipe here, it may be real heavy this way. But the way I'm going to counter that, I think, is maybe I've got a cast iron drain plate that I'm going to put in there for the grill and some rocks, so hopefully that will counter it. If not, I'm going to have to shorten up this angle a little bit. So it comes in, looks pretty tight. The cool thing about this is, what I'm hoping is that I'll be able to disassemble this for storage and just put this on the inside and store the pipe with it. I'll be right back. I tried it with the pipe on there, and it is ridiculously top heavy, so what I'm going to need to do is figure out another solution for a base for this sucker. And when I'm at the hardware store, I'm going to look for something. This may take me a little bit though. Well, got back from the hardware store, and I did find a solution for the legs, and I decided to switch from the cast iron pipe to this. Now, I don't know that this is going to be enough for the heat, but I'm going to try it anyway. It's a 1" by 2" section of copper pipe here, and it's the same deal. It just unscrews real quick, but it's a lot lighter than the previous application was, so I'm going to try that. And now I need to
figure out how I'm going to do the door and the screws and things like that. So that's the next step. So what I did here was, these are number 8 3/4 inch long stove bolts. They fit my hinges. I put them in the door and then cut them off with a Dremel tool so I don't have big long things sticking through. And then I drilled some holes with a 3/8 inch drill bit and widened them a little bit, and it closes and recesses in there just fine without cutting the whole deal out. Now I've got the door done. You can see I've got both of those so they recess, and it closes very confidently. Now I'm going to have to bend it a little bit, but I think once I get the hinge on, it'll mostly make up for any bending I need to do. I did add 2 more screws to this steel plate here just so that there's no play in that. And now I'm going to build the hinge. So I bought one of these just window bolts, and I'm going to put it on there. There may be a better option. I didn't have much luck in the hinge department or the locking mechanism department while looking at the store, so we'll give this a shot. It looks like I may need to add another little thickness of steel on this side, but I'm going to try it like this first and we'll see what happens. So I'm happy to report success. It opens and closes. It does kick this in a little bit when you do it, but I'm willing to live with that. I think if I just leave it sit closed for a while, it'll probably, especially after you have some heat in there, it's probably going to reshape a little bit. I need to drill a hole there and a hole there, although I might leave this hole out so that I'm not running into a screw when I have it closed. This is going to take some gloves to open and close though, because this is going to be hotter than hell, I imagine. So I'll drill this hole and then I'll assemble the legs. One other little feature I decided to add before putting on the legs is some little doors that'll let air in. And I just took another piece of metal, put a little tab on it, and screwed this like that, and then it's got a little hole that it'll cover up. Did the same thing on the other side, so hopefully that will be enough air. If not, I can always add another one somewhere else. So it's basically done. We've got one more thing to do, and that's to put this cast iron, it's a 6-inch cast iron drain cover inside. And to support it, I've got some of these ceramic briquettes. I'm just going to put a few of the, 3 of these in the bottom. And then the grate will rest on that. So hopefully that will prevent the bottom of this from burning out. I guess we'll see over time. And it looks good in there. Looks like that's going to work. Close this up. So this is the stove. You're probably wanting to see how it works, and so am I. So I'm going to take it out and fire it up. The point of this is, if you think of something better, or you can improve this, or figure out a better way, then let me know, because these are pretty fun to build, but I'm sure there's got to be an easier way to do it. So let's go fire it up. Okay, well here's the inaugural run here. I'm going to go ahead and open up the baffles there, see if we can't get some air going. Open this up. I've got some paper in there and a couple little sticks of fat wood. We'll see how this bad boy does. while we're building the fire, I don't see any reason not to put a little soup on. Here's a couple cups of water, and to make it a good soup, I'm going to go ahead and remove the lid here. This is a ramen noodle soup that I make, and I got some veggies in there. I'm going to go ahead and add those. The lid back on, see if we can't get this to come to a boil. Hopefully this whole thing isn't going to come crashing down and fail, but it's the first run, and I really don't know if this is going to work, so you get to see it here first.
Here's a toast to the host of those who love the vastness of the sky.
So I've got a boil here. I'm going to finish up my noodles here. These will just go for a few minutes here, so I'm going to give them a stir and put the lid back on. So, some thoughts whilst I enjoy my noodles. The back, you know, that gasket works great. There's no smoke escaping around the back. I think when you close the door, it's probably not going to be hot enough to cook on. What I want to see is how well this works to burn that wood down and just make heat. But to cook, I either need to add more baffles to that, or I need to cook with the door open. But so far it's working great. It does what it's supposed to. I mean, the smoke's coming out and all that, but interesting little project. Had a lot of fun. If you can help me improve it, post a comment, etc., etc. And thanks for watching.